All right, welcome to this video. We're going to be covering the installation and setup of the Acronis Snap Deploy Pixy server. For those of you who are not aware, this is a component of the Acronis Snap Deploy product, which handles and assists with managing and utilizing bootable media, image files, and other such processes within the program. Now, once you actually have downloaded the installer from the Acronis website, you can run it and you will get a menu such as this. And go ahead and select Acronis Snap Deploy Install. We will accept the terms and agreements. Now, you'll come to a decision here where you basically have two options. You can do a typical installation, which will effectively install the required, the baseline components as well as the most commonly used ones. These are going to be the deployment server management, the agent, as well as the Pixy server itself. Otherwise, you can actually select custom, which will give you more control over exactly what you want to install here. For our intents and purposes, we're going to go ahead and select typical. Now, you will need to include a license key here. These you will get once you actually register and purchase the product. From there, you can enter them in here and continue with the installation. We're going to go ahead and use one of our trial licenses that we have. You'll see this is it'll then spit out the type of license that you're actually going to be using. In this case, we have input a server trial license. Go ahead and hit next. From here, you can designate exactly where you want to install the program as well as what users it will be available to. There's going to be an optional customer experience program you can either opt into or opt out of. It's your choice. And from here, this is going to be a summary of everything that you're installing. As you can see, we are currently going to be installing the license server, the deploy server, the Pixy server, and the management console. Go ahead and hit install. And once this is finished, we will go ahead and pick back up. All right, as you can see here, the installation has been successfully completed. Go ahead and automatically run this, close. And this will automatically open up the management console. As you can see here, we can close out of our installer. Now, this is actually going to automatically install the Pixy server, as you can see here in the management console. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that in order to utilize this functionality, this component of the Snap Deploy, you will need to ensure that certain requirements are met as outlined in the documentation. You can actually find this either on the Acronis website under the support documentation for Snap Deploy, but specifically the Acronis Pixy server uses the following UDP ports: 67, 68, and 69, as well as the broadcast address 255.255.255.255. Now, can do here is go ahead and show you where this documentation is, what this looks like. Again, this is going to be on our Acronis.com support documentation section. And this first section is specifically covering the deploy server as well as the management console components. So you will need to ensure that these are added to your firewall as an exception. And likewise down here we have the necessary components for the Pixy server as well. Now, in this particular instance, we just have Windows Defender Firewall on, and Snap Deploy actually does a fairly good job of automatically adding certain exceptions for its components. So as you can see here, we already have the 2 exceptions for the inbound rules regarding TCP and UDP ports. But in the event that your environment has much more stringent security measures in place, you may need to add these manually to whatever firewall your organization is utilizing. Now that we have the actual Pixy server or component set up, the next portion will be to actually add components to it. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is we are actually going to upload a PE image to the Pixy server here in just a moment. Now, in order to do this, it assumes that you already have a PE image created to upload to the Pixy server. But for all intents and purposes, let's assume that we don't have one of those. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually create one. So in this instance, we're going to go up to the Tools menu, create PE image. Now, depending on whether or not you have the necessary components already installed on your environment, you will either see something like this, in which you can either create it automatically or select the files and folders specifically. If you do not have the necessary components, this will look a little bit different. It will auto-populate with the required components that you're going to need, as well as links on where to find them. So in this instance, we can go ahead and select Create It Automatically, hit Next. Now, these are going to be some of your optional features that you can set when creating this component. Effectively, this option right here is just simply for the auto start, whether it controls whether or not the Snap Deploy agent automatically starts once it's booted into the environment. You can also include network settings here that will actually point to the OS deploy server that you specify. From here, we can go ahead and select the type of media we want to create. In this instance, because we are going to be using it with the Pixy server, we want to select the first option here. Go ahead and hit Next. Now we will need to specify the machine name where the Pixy server is installed. This can either be an actual machine name or an IP address, whichever is easier for your organization to use. Go ahead and use an IP address here. Going to need to include a username and password as well. And then the password. Now, this next screen is going to allow you to effectively password protect the components that you're uploading. So this could be useful if you have, say, an image that you're attempting to upload to the Pixy server that you don't want just anyone having access to, so you can actually password protect that. And then from here, you can actually specify any specific network adapters, SCSI rates, SATA controllers, anything like that for the various drivers that you may need for whatever device you may be implementing this on. This will give you a rundown of exactly what you're doing. You can go ahead and create. And as you can see, that's finished creating. And we now have the PE media sitting on our Pixy server here. Now, in the event that you have a Pixy PE media that you want to upload, you can do that through here, selecting Upload PE Media, which will then prompt you to select the location of that media in order to upload it. Fairly straightforward process, but I hope you found this video educational, and we will end it here.